Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I'm Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for joining me today. If you're here to learn business, to learn how to improve your career, to learn how to move into management, or to learn leadership, you come to the right place. That's what I'm here to help everybody with. The title of today's episode is The Ultimate Guide to Business Types. Which one is right for you? So that's what we're going to get in today. But first, we're going to briefly talk about how business is not smoke and mirrors. It's actually a field of study. I'm looking forward to talking about that. But first of all, special thanks to my Patreons, my YouTube channel members, to my subscribers, and my super thanks donors, and especially to you for being here. Thank you for joining me today. This is the weekly live stream where we talk about anything related to business. So that's what we're going to be doing. Check out my fancy, artsy new camera angle I have here. Just trying something slightly different. And you can see that I got my nice ancient monitor here. You know your equipment is great when it's beige. That's the sign of the cutting edge of technology right there. But yes, welcome to everybody who's here. Hopefully you're going to come with me. We're going to be talking about the different types of business, what you use them for, and this kind of thing. In particular, we're going to be talking about the three types of business, whether you should be home-based or brick and mortar-based, whether you should do products or services, how those work, three different business strategies, the three primary basic business strategies, and the three pricing strategies. We're going to be covering all of those today. But yes, if you are not subscribed to my channel, subscribe. And I primarily cover careers in this on this YouTube channel. And as an extension of that, it gives me an opportunity to talk about what I really like, which is the aspect of improving your career. And one aspect of your career is also learning business, because either you could move up into management and get promoted and sort of have your career progress that way, or you can leave the entire idea of working as an employee behind and start your own business, or, like the name of this live stream implies, have a side hustle where you get the best of both worlds. You keep your day job, but you also create a business on the side to make you some extra money. And for some people, that's as far as it goes, and that's great. It supplements your income, but also for some others, it can be a way of validating your business idea if you wanted to take it full time. And I think that's where the excitement really is. So we cover all of that. And the beauty is that the constituent skills for all of those are quite similar, actually. So we cover them all at the same time. Okay, so let's get on with this. So we're going to open it up to questions a little bit later, because this is primarily a Q&A. But just to kick us off before questions rolled in, I wanted to talk about sort of introduction kind of topic, and that is that business is not smoke and mirrors. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because out on the internet is a wonderful thing, and there's a lot of great information out there. It allows the information to be at your fingertips and you to learn very easily about a lot of different things, including business. But the problem is, although there's a few gems of knowledge out there, there's a hell of a lot of crap and misinformation. And being someone that's worked in business, had a career, led a company, gone to business school, I look out and I see what people are saying, and some of it is just misinformation. It's just crap. So I wanted to dispel a couple of myths. And the first one is that, how can I put this? Sometimes when you look at social media and you look at the business related posts, whether it's, about self-improvement, like, leadership and all this, or it's about reporting in the news, like what's going on in the business world. There's a lot of people that perceive business as this kind of random magic that's smoke and mirrors, that only certain people who have, the secret sauce can do. And unless you have that secret sauce, this intangible kind of thing, then you just aren't as good. And it doesn't work like that. That's how we regarded medicine like 2,000 years ago. You know what I mean? It was all show. It was all this random magic that only certain people could do because they had like a rapport and a secret knowledge that only they could know. We now know things like medicine. It's very scientific. You go to med school. If you want to be a surgeon, you want to do an operation, you go to med school and you learn how to be a doctor. You learn how to become a surgeon. You do a lot of practical work and practice your trade, and then you become a world-class surgeon. It's just that simple. It's something that can be learned by anyone if you're willing to apply yourself, and you learn the actual proper knowledge that you acquire from legitimate sources, right? It's just that simple. Business is the same. It's not this weird visionary leadership life advice kind of thing. And it's also not the weird, like, alpha male, high roller, high risk kind of thing that some people portray it as. It's all snake oil. That preys on people's ignorance. For example, like even the debate, should you get an MBA if you want to learn business? It's stupid. Of course you should. It's like saying, should you go to med school if you want to be a doctor? I've heard that you could be a doctor just as well if you don't go to med school. It's like, that's crap. You go to the place where people have been studying these things and it's scientific and it's data-based and they will teach you how it works. Or at least they'll teach you, the body of human knowledge so far on it, right? So business is the same way. Okay. For those who don't know, business is a field of study and it's basically the study of how to make money. That's what it is. And, if you are interested in improving yourself and having a career in the business world, I'd highly recommend that you learn a bit about business in a broader sense. So if you come from operations or you come from, sales or customer service, and that's where, you've had all your work experience so far, but you're interested in sort of climbing the ladder, I'd recommend that you educate yourself on business. So if you come from customer service, you may not know about things like sales, or you may not know about things like operations or accounting, or organizational theory, like how to organize groups of people so that they're efficient, all this kind of stuff. So it would be good to get that general knowledge, and that will, across the board, that will help you in being a better manager, in being more aware of what's going on so that you can make better decisions. Okay. And how can I put this? If you also have the ambition of being an entrepreneur, someone who's going to, instead of work as an employee for someone else, you want to forge your own path and maybe create an alternative to having to get a job. Same thing. Learn your trade. Learn business. Now, the most popular choice that I recommend for people is to go and get a business degree at a university. Okay, that would be the best way to do this. If you're young and you have the opportunity, great, go and do that. That's definitely the thing to do. If, however, your options are limited, maybe you're a little bit older, going back to school is not really a problem. There are other ways to do it, okay? Now, I've created a course called the $100 MBA that will help you with that. It's a solution for some people. One of the advantages is that, first of all, it's cheap as hell when you consider the alternative. So it's great bang for the buck. The other thing is that if you were to take an MBA, that's a master's degree, and usually it requires that you have a bachelor degree first. Now, if you don't have a bachelor degree first, but you still want to learn business, getting that will allow you to do it. Okay, so for some people, that will be an option. So I highly recommend that you check that out. You go at your own pace. You go to the depth that you're interested in learning. You can go super deep and learn everything you would in an MBA program because you're reading the same textbooks and you're absorbing the same material. But if you don't want to go that deep into it, that's fine. You can just skim it if that's all you're interested in doing. So check that out. There's a link in the description about that. But business is a legitimate field of study. Don't believe a lot of the noise you hear on the internet about it being smoke and mirrors. And it's not just at the low end that people have been saying this stuff. I remember a few years ago, Yahoo hired a CEO, and this was Marissa Mayer. And I remember at the time there was all this talk about how Yahoo was failing because it was on a long decline, and they wanted to reverse course. And they figured they'll get like a young hotshot CEO in there, and surely they'll be able to turn it around, right? And it was this idea, this myth that, okay, these individuals are somehow magic and that they can come in and do things that no one else can do because they're geniuses and they're head and shoulders above the rest of us. And now scientifically, we know that that's crap. Okay, it doesn't work like that. When you get individuals that succeed big like that, usually and this is not me talking, this is the body of human knowledge studied by management scientists and universities who have PhDs in business and stuff. And, they've concluded that when you look at these individual cases, there's a tremendous amount of luck involved, right? It's not that this person is really that gifted. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're usually pretty smart and they have, they're right about certain things, but does that mean they're right about everything? No, it was just a flash in the pan. It's exactly the same way it works with investing. When you speculate, it's random chance. You're right some of the time, you're wrong some of the time, and that's just how it works. So this is what they found. So needless to say, they hired Marissa Mayer, who is this bright young, celebrity CEO. She had worked for Google and could do no wrong. And they thought, let's get her in there. And then somehow this amazing CEO will turn around a business that has a failing model, that is strapped for cash, that has a terrible brand reputation, that's viewed as passé, and competing in a market that's dwindling. Well, it didn't work, as one would expect. But for some reason, almost the entire world seemed to be surprised that didn't work. And once again, you learn that the old rules apply. Every 20 years or so, you get people that come along that say, oh yeah, all the old rules are dead. We've rethought the entire business and the entire way this stuff works. And they're always wrong. I remember they were saying that about the .com bubble. Anybody remember that back in 2001 when it burst? Companies like Enron saying, oh yeah, we don't need assets. Everything's new now. All the old rules don't apply. Well, it turns out they do. And those companies failed miserably after being the media darlings for like a couple of years there. So yeah. Anyway, that's what I want to say. So hopefully that makes sense. It's not smoke and mirrors. It's a legitimate field of study. The only people that think that it's hocus pocus magic are people that don't actually know about business. They're not actually trained in it. So if you want to learn business, you want to learn how to create money without an employer, or you want to know what actually leads an organization to success, learn this stuff. If you're looking for some kind of cheap alternative that has tremendous bang for the buck, check out my course right there. But if you do have the opportunity, go to business school, learn it properly, and that will benefit you. Hello to Leo Sunshine and to the other 20 people that I see are here. Thank you for joining me today. Leo Sunshine says, question. A friend of mine is considering applying to a probation officer position at a federal level, and he's concerned about the job being emotionally draining, but he would still get paid well. Okay, keeping in mind that we're not really here to talk about how to get a job. This is the Side Hustles live stream. But I'm sure I'll be hearing more of that question in a bit. Okay, let's move on to the main topic of today's stream, which is the ultimate guide to business types. Okay, which one is right for you? Now, there's a couple of things I want to explore here. If you are thinking of starting a business and you're wondering what are your options, what could you do, how could you do it, we're going to cover several things here. We're going to cover the types of businesses, whether it should be home-based, like a virtual business, or brick and mortar, where you have property, like a storefront. We're going to cover products or services. What could you do and why? We're going to cover the 3 basic strategies, business strategies, the 3 fundamental ones. and we're going to cover the 3 fundamental pricing strategies. So let's dive in. Okay, here we got to go to my artsy new angle here from far away. Okay, so there are 3 types of business. 3 types of business. That's all there are, really. You have to decide which of these might be appropriate for you, okay? First of all, you have the traditional business, okay? So the obvious example here would be to think of something like a plumbing company. That's the example I always use. You want to start a plumbing company, right? Where you install plumbing in new houses, you service plumbing in, old houses or commercial buildings, right? You could install and service plumbing fixtures and systems in commercial or industrial facilities and buildings, right? But you're a plumbing company. That's what you do. Now, this is by far the most common type of business, a traditional business. You're not the only plumbing company in the world. There are obviously many, many others. You're not trying to, be innovative and creative here necessarily. You're trying to fill a need, right? Now, the advantages of starting a traditional company, like a plumbing company, is that people already know what plumbing is. They already know that they have to pay for it. There are standard expectations of how much they should pay for these services, like industry rates and things. There's a known market, like groups of customers and potential customers for plumbing. Okay, and they're all in a certain place and you can see who they are, and this is all created for you. And there's other plumbing companies you can look to as examples of what's going on and use them as templates for what to do. Okay, it's a traditional company. The advantage is that all the stuff is already done for you. When you say, hi, my name is, whatever your name is, X, owner of this plumbing company, they go, they know what that is. Okay? There are a lot of advantages of this, and that makes it more predictable. So this is the first option you have. And as I say, the most common type of company is the traditional company. Okay? It's a non-innovative company. That's the first type. This would be a less risky type of company than some other types. Okay? The other type, second of 3, is an innovative company. Okay, this is where you're creating something new and different, right? So you say, I'm this type of company, and people go, what? Like, what is that? I've never heard of that. You see? You would have to educate people on what it is, why they need it. You have to educate them on the fact that they even need to pay for that. Why should that be a paid thing? Why can't that just be done for free, right? Most people don't have a clue what it is or why they would need it, right? That's an innovative type company. An innovative type company, usually it's some type of technological based company, a tech company. This is the biggest business challenge of them all. The risk is very high. The potential reward is very high, but it's the mammoth of all business challenges getting one of these off the ground. Now, I used to be an advisor for several innovative tech companies back in the day, like 20 years ago, between 20 and 10 years ago. And it was quite interesting. There was quite a high failure rate, but a couple of people did make it. And this is where you get a lot of the entrepreneur culture, the sort of young entrepreneur culture. Beware, a lot of that is crap. It's like, young people thinking, I don't have to live by the traditional rules. Well, it turns out you do. The traditional business rules still do apply. Ignorance of the rules doesn't mean you can just ignore them because they apply. Okay. But there have been a couple of people that I've had the privilege of knowing that were just brilliant. They were just very smart. They're smarter than me. And they had these crazy ideas and they took off. So if you're that type of person, you have crazy ideas, but you're also successful, this may be for you. Those types of businesses tend to be more successful if you start them in certain places. The model since about 1960 has been, instead of the money coming to those businesses, the businesses go to the money. So that's what made Silicon Valley a thing. That's where the financiers were, all the angel investors, all the venture capitalists, all the financial services people that would deal with innovative startup companies. That's where they were concentrated in the United States, or that part of the United States. So you would go to them to start your business. That's where there was a community of people that could help you, and the places to be seen and all this kind of stuff where it was happening. There's some on the East Coast, some on the West Coast, and some I think in like Boston is still kind of the East Coast, but that's kind of where the hubs are. In other countries, there may, depending on what country you're in, there may be hubs of innovation. So that's something you definitely want to check out. And if you are located in a place where you are not in an innovation hub, where there's a lot of successful entrepreneurship going on in innovative areas, you may wish to consider relocation. It's very hard to start a business from being away, when you're away from that entire industry. It is, and I know what I'm talking about. So that's an option for some people. But beware, it's very hard to get those businesses off the ground. Not impossible, but very hard. Okay, and the third and final type of business is a franchise. Maybe you guys have heard of franchises. I'm sure you have. What you can do is you can go and learn about it, just go to Wikipedia and learn all about it. This is a type of business that's great for people who, they're more doers than thinkers. Okay, so the idea is that somebody else writes the playbook on what you do and how you do it. And all you have to do is sort of follow the instructions. It's like a paint by numbers way of doing a business. Some people have figured out a way to make a successful business. They figured out the branding and the operations and the marketing and all this kind of stuff. And all you have to do is follow their instructions, and then you will be a part of that success. But you are an independent business owner. It's just that they're selling you a playbook on, exactly how to do your business, what to call it, what sign to put outside, what to offer, how to offer it. They'll help you. Here's all the tools, here's all the equipment, right? They'll show you what to do, so you don't have to think, but you have to work hard. And that's franchising. So if that sounds like something that's more for you, you kind of turn off your brain somewhat and just do what people tell you and expect success to come, then that's the thing for you. It's kind of a halfway house between being in business for yourself and being an employee in a way. Because even though you technically are your own business, you don't have as much control, nearly as much control over what you do as you normally would if you were truly your own business. So that can be an option for some people. Okay, let's get back to this here. So those are the three types of businesses. So that's your first kind of decision to make as to which of those seem more your style and what your ambition might be. Okay, the next big question is, should you be home-based, meaning like a virtual business that you run from your home, or should you be a brick-and-mortar business? That's a place where you have some kind of location. You have commercial property in some way, shape, or form. You have a storefront, or you have an office, or something like that. Okay, some place that's usually going to be accessible to the public. So you advertise, this is where I'm located. And then you would go from your home to that location, presumably to do your work on your business. Okay. Now, my blanket recommendation across the board for people is first do one, then the other. Okay. If you're thinking of doing something that requires brick and mortar, like you're wanting to own a bakery or a restaurant or something like that, where you have a place of business, or like a store, right? You want to do a store. My recommendation would be to first try it from home, try a scaled down version of your business that's possible to run from home virtually, and do that to validate it. Okay, so instead of just getting a big, capital investment to spend on, getting office space or something. Instead, start your business from home with minimal cost, and then see if you can get customers, see if you can get enough revenue to and organize your costs and things so that you can make a profit, and then see if you can grow yourself beyond the initial sort of attempt so that it shows that it's scalable. And then when you have money coming in and you're profitable, then go for the second phase where you get yourself some kind of brick and mortar component. You lease office space, or you lease commercial property, something like that. Make that jump. Do it in baby steps. That's what I'd recommend. And contrary to what many people think, any type of business, it is possible to do it virtually. A scaled down version of it virtually before you have to start buying commercial property. Okay, property, plant, and equipment. Okay, so that's what I have to say about that. This might be a bit of a thinking exercise for some people, because they always just had in their mind this vision of, I'm going to have this building is going to be mine, and this is how it's going to be laid out, and, blah, blah. Yes, you can get that, but work up to it. And if you can, try and finance it yourself. That's the ultimate way of doing it. Because then when you're profitable, you are really profitable, and no one can stop you. And you're not encumbered by a lot of debt and things like this, whether it's investors or, just straight loans from lenders. You can weather any storm and you can be profitable. I know it's a trend to shackle yourself with debt, and there are very sound business reasons to do that from one perspective. But from another perspective, if this is your life and this is your project, and there's a lot of yourself tied up in it, it's a good thing to try and do it without, being a slave to some lender. It really is, for a variety of different reasons. So that's what I'd recommend. It's also much, much less risky to try it virtually first. Okay. The third big decision you might have is whether to be a product company or a service company. Now, this is really relevant because, for example, the example I used about 10 minutes ago was a plumbing company, right? As an example of a traditional type business that's non-innovative would be a plumbing company. Now, think of it. A plumbing company, you could be a product-based plumbing company or a service-based plumbing company. A service-based plumbing company is simple. You just send out repair people and technicians to go and fix, leaky pipes and things like this, or to go perform maintenance on things or repairs or upgrades, right? A product-based plumbing company might be some kind of plumbing supply company is one option, or maybe you create a custom plumbing product or plumbing tool that you sell to other businesses, right? So you could be a product-based company or a service-based company. Which makes sense? Well, product-based companies, this is where economies of scale really come into the picture. It's extremely hard to go head-to-head against a competitor who's doing the same thing as you, or roughly the same thing as you, when you're in the product business, if you're smaller. If they're big and they've got economies of scale and you're small, they will always have an advantage over you. Their costs will be much lower than yours, and it's going to be very hard to compete. They would, in theory, be able to lower their prices much more than you would. Or they could keep their prices higher, like you can, but they'll be making more of a profit than you, right? So that's something that you have to know about the product business. Can you do a product business? Yes, of course. You can do an original product that nobody else is competing directly with you, at least right now, for that type of product, and you can find a lot of success there. But you really have to know the competitive landscape. On the other hand, a service business, this is where you have a couple of things. First of all, there are some advantages of being a service-based business. And that is that you can go up against a much larger competitor and you can go head to head with them and win, even though you're much smaller than they are, because services tend to equalize a lot of the advantages of size, right? For example, we were talking about a plumbing company. If you're a plumbing services company and I don't know, the pipes in your house are leaking and you need to call a plumber, who are you going to get? Are you going to get the big multinational plumbing company that's located 100 kilometers away? Or are you going to get your one-person plumbing company that's located next door? Well, it's probably going to be the one-person company next door, right? Because they're geographically closer to you, and maybe you even know them and you have more of a rapport. So those are two considerable advantages: geographic proximity and the quality of service and the relationship you have with these people. They trump anything else. So it doesn't matter how big you are, it doesn't matter what you've got going for you. Those two things generally tend to win out, and that favors anyone, no matter if they're a one-person company or not. So services are a great equalizer. So they're a great way in if you want to start something. You just have to learn to build a customer base in the service business. The other thing about services is that the costs are highly variable instead of being highly fixed. So product companies, like think of a factory. You pay for the factory, and whether the factory is sitting idle or it's running full steam, you still got to cover the monthly expenses. They're pretty much the same. Well, similar. Whereas a service business, if you're not getting any calls for your service, you don't have to have any costs really. But if you have a lot of demand, then you can hire a lot of technicians on demand, and then your costs go up proportionally with your revenue. So it's a lot less riskier in general. Okay, so products or services, or some combination of the two. A lot of people offer some combination of the two. We'll sell you a product and the installation or something. Okay, so that can be really a way to go. In the beginning, I'd recommend you look more into a service business unless you have some special competitive advantage in the product area. Okay, the fourth of 5 of these I'm going to do is strategies. What business strategy? We're going to cover 3 basic business strategies if I haven't put everyone to sleep yet. There are 3 sort of fundamental business strategies, which is basically the way you make money, like why someone would buy something from you instead of your competitors. That's the business strategy. What are the strategies? Well, the 3 principal ones are cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. Okay, those are the 3 strategies. So cost leadership is the idea that, people are going to buy your stuff because your stuff is going to be cheaper. That's the idea. Okay. Technically speaking, it's because your costs are lower. Now, there's a difference between your costs and the price of your product. You can choose to write in whatever price you want on a product, but your costs are not something you choose. It's something that you can get. So the idea is that if your costs are lower than your competitors, you can get the parts for cheaper than they can. Maybe you buy them in quantity, whereas your competitors don't, or something. Or you have access to some supplier that they don't have access to. That gives you an advantage. And you can do a couple of things with that. Like I said earlier, either you can price your product lower than your competitor, because you can have your price a lot lower but still make a profit, whereas your competitor can't lower it that much and still make a profit. Or you could keep the prices higher than that, but you will make a higher profit margin than your competitor because your costs are lower. So more of the revenue becomes profit for you than for your competitor. Hopefully that makes sense. But that's a cost leadership strategy. So you do that by economies of scale and efficiencies. Efficiencies are something you have some control over. Economies of scale, a lot of times you don't, because it depends on demand. Okay, or your resources, or your strategic position. Okay, so that's cost leadership. Very hard to compete this way when you're small. It's very hard. So for that reason, I would dissuade anyone from starting a business and saying, I'm going to win in the beginning because I'm going to lower my prices more than my competitors. It's very, very hard to win with that strategy when you're small and you're new. However, there's good news, and the good news is that the other two strategies tend to work for small players. The first one is differentiation. That's where you don't do exactly the same thing as everyone else. You do something different. You have something that's unique about your product, so you're not going head to head with other companies because you're offering a different thing that they're not offering, right? So that's where you can really win out. You can find a gap in the products or services that are being offered and say, I'm going to offer this. No one's really offering this. And if that's something that people actually want, you can really clean up because nobody is currently offering that. So there's a real opportunity there. So you can get in and then you can lead, you can innovate, and you can improve as you go. Someone else coming in later, seeing your success and trying to imitate you, they'll be behind in that race. So unless they move faster than you, you're going to have an advantage. Okay, so that's the differentiation strategy. You do something different. And finally, there's the focus strategy. And the focus strategy is very simple. It's where you focus on a particular group of customers that no one else is really paying attention to. You say, look, people offer, fishing supplies. That's great. But nobody's really focusing on people that are really into fishing. So I'm going to open a store where it's just for enthusiasts that are really, really into fishing. And I'm going to sell stuff that caters to them. I'm going to have products that, are not just for Joe person who wants to fish casually, but the real enthusiast, who wants the best stuff. They're going to pay $1,000 for a fishing rod or something. I don't know. I'm going to target them because no one's really targeting those people. And I'm going to be their darling. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to be their one-stop shop for all their needs. They're never going to go back to these stores ever again. They're only going to come to me because I'm the one that really, services that type of customer well. Okay, so that's the focus strategy. I'm going to focus on a certain type of customers, and I'm going to really take care of them much better than anyone else, than any of the big players. Okay, so those are your three fundamental strategies: cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. And just in case you actually do want some more, I'm going to talk about one final thing, and that's the three pricing strategies. There are three fundamental pricing strategies that you can use. Okay, if you're going to be setting a price for your product, this is part of your business strategy. They are cost plus, value based, and freemium. So cost plus is very simple. How much should you charge for your product or service? Well, you look at the cost of that product or service to you, and then you add a markup. So 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever. And different types of businesses have different types of markups, right? The more service-based it is, usually the more markup there is. Products have much less of a markup in general. So that's how you price your product. That's how you know how much to charge for it. Okay, that's called cost plus. The other big way you can price your products is, or services, and by the way, the term for product and service or combination thereof is offering. So offering means whatever you're offering, whether it's a product or a service or a combination, that's what we're talking about. So the way you can price your offering is also something called value-based pricing. And value-based pricing is, it doesn't matter what the cost is to you. The real question is, how much is this worth to your customer? Now, let me give you an example I've used a couple of weeks ago on this live stream. I was an advisor. I am a business consultant, and I was an advisor many years ago, and I was advising a small business how to increase their revenue or whatever. And this was several years ago. And I advised them not to do a specific thing. They were thinking of doing something, and I made my opinion very clear that I really recommended that they did not do this for a variety of reasons. And they ignored me, and they went ahead and did it anyway. And it was a massive mistake. It was a huge cost. It took up a lot of their time, and it did not yield the results that they were hoping for. So it cost them something like $50,000. Like, that was the total cost of doing this. They spent all this money, they spent all this time, and in the end, they did not get something that they could use. So they had paid me a tiny fraction of that for like that bit of advice. And I'd said, like, don't do this. And they ignored me, and it cost them $50,000. Now, if you want to reduce this down to very simple accounting, if they had paid me $40,000 for that advice, and that advice which they took, presumably, saved them $50,000, it would have been worth it for them. They would have made $10,000 on the whole deal. I would be worth it for them. Right? So that's the idea. So it's you determine how much to charge is based on the benefit that the customer or client receives, right? Value-based pricing. Now, you guys have probably seen examples of this everywhere. You go and buy if you're female, you might be really into jewelry. And, you go and buy like some of this jewelry that like looks really good, but it's very cheap. It turns out that some of these jewelry makers, they make their jewelry for like pennies. So you buy a ring or a necklace or something, and it costs like maybe $1 to manufacture that, right? But they charge like $50 or $100 for this. And they succeed, and they're very successful. Now, why is that? It's because this thing looks almost as good as a real necklace that's made out of gold and jewels or something. But instead of costing, I don't know, $3,000, it costs $100. So you think like, wow, I'll pay $100 and I'll consider it a really good deal if I'm a customer. Right? So, but really that necklace, it cost the company maybe 75 cents to make, and they just charged you $100 for it. So it's not about marking up your costs. Your costs don't matter. This is about how much value does this deliver to the end user, right? And if they're expecting to pay $3,000, but this is worth $100 or even $200, they'll gladly pay it. They'll take two, So that's value-based pricing. You don't base your prices on your cost structure at all. You simply look at how much value does this provide to the customer. Okay, how much time does it save, or what does it save them from doing an alternative that's much more expensive? Something like that. Okay, so that's value-based pricing. And finally, the last thing is freemium, which is what you're probably used to on the internet, where you look at, say, Google, and Google will offer its search engine for free, right? So it's free. Here you go. I've spent all this money developing this thing and operating all the data centers in order to keep it running. But here, you can have access for free. But in return, we're going to show you some advertising, right? YouTube works that way too. Here's a video, that you don't have to pay to see, but we're going to show you some ads, right? So that's the freemium model, where you provide the offering for free, but it's a vehicle for advertisement or some other thing that you can use to make money directly from it. Okay, so the money doesn't come from the customer or the end user, it comes from your true customers, which are more like partners than end users. That's the freemium model. So all of these are viable options for how to price your product. In which case, the freemium model, the price is $0, but you still are profitable. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. That was the ultimate guide to business types. Which one is right for you? These are 5 decisions you can make and start narrowing down maybe what your side hustle or your own business venture will look like. And then if you have some ideas of what you're kind of leaning towards, the next step is then to go out and start trying things and get validation on whether these things are the way to go. Okay, we are going to open this up to questions. And someone has withdrawn their comments about getting jobs and stuff. That's fine. That's not a problem. I usually consult on or answer questions about, how to pass job interviews and things. But this is the stream where we talk mainly about business and entrepreneurship and starting your own side hustle, etc. Okay, so Min is here. Min says, good morning, sir. I have some questions. If two agencies introduce the same company for interview in person, one at 10 a.m., one at 12, is it okay? Okay, I don't fully understand the context. Are you talking about like job interviews or something, Min? Because once again, this is not really the platform for that. So if you could give me a bit more information for that. And how do you say this? Kirich 14 says freemium as in free premium. Yes. Yes. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. There are different names. But basically, it's like the sort of everything is free model, where you offer your product or service for free to the customer or to the user, but then your revenue comes from essentially a partner, like an advertiser. That's the idea. Okay, so I'm going to open it up for questions. We got 16 people here. Thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions about side hustles or entrepreneurship or business, feel free to let me know in the chat. For those of you, I haven't actually said it yet. Hopefully it's self-evident to most people, but if you're seeing my face, you should see a chat box somewhere in the vicinity, whether you're on your phone or on a device or on a computer. Get in the chat and let me know if you're wondering anything, if you're struggling with something to do with business or to do with learning business. This could go into careers or business strategy. I love both of those topics. Yes, Kurech 14 says thanks. Yeah, a lot of people, the thing about the last couple of years is that a lot of people have had to start side hustles to supplement their income. They might be making a certain amount of money in a day job, but because of certain recent events and current events, they've had to sort of bring in more income. And so as a result, have added side hustles and things. And I think it's great in the sense that more people are being exposed to the fundamentals of business, because I think that, more people should know this stuff. If you have ever had any kind of creative vision or desire to do your own thing, to take like a hobby or some kind of creative passion and turn it into a money-making venture, the way to do that is called business, right? It's understanding the business principles that will enable you to do that. So if there's a thing that you want to do, like you have a passion for, and you think like, wouldn't it be great if I could just make all my money off doing this, rather than having to just keep this as a hobby and put it aside and go do something else that I don't really like doing so that I can make money. Wouldn't it be great to dispense with that day job that I don't really have a passion for, and instead use my creative passion, my hobby, as the sort of income source? Wouldn't that be great? I think yes, absolutely. I think there's a lot of people in that boat, and but a lot of those people don't seem to realize that the knowledge that will take you to realizing that scenario is the study of business. That's what business is. It's the science and the art of how to make money. And it's not all hocus pocus. It's not all like this flim flam, intangible stuff. It's a solid scientific body of knowledge that can be taught, and it is taught step by step, and they'll teach you from beginning to end. Here's how it all works. And the other great thing about it is that it's really not that hard. Like, I've taken two things in my life academically. I've taken an engineering degree, and then I've taken an MBA. I've got other minor things, but those are the two big things I've taken. And all I can say is that compared with an engineering degree, learning business is a walk in the park. There's a lot more challenging things out there than learning business. It doesn't require a rocket surgeon or a brain scientist to understand, right? This is the great thing. And there's a lot of intelligent, capable people out there that are looking for this knowledge. This is where it is. Kaiki8318 is here. Hello to Kaikis. Kaiki says, say we have a product that I believe is of great value. How do you recommend marketing that product if the company is in its really state, like early stages, you mean? Or really early stages? Simple. You basically validate it. So I think it was the last episode of this live stream that I talked about marketing. You see, marketing is it's the study of how to make something popular, right? So there isn't a blanket answer to how to market something. It's going to depend on what industry you're in, what you're trying to do, and the specifics of that industry and that particular market. Like, basically, it's the process of finding out who are your potential customers, where they are. You want to learn as much about them as you possibly can, and then you want to try and figure out what you need to communicate to them to get them to do business with you. So you're going to have to reverse engineer that. Now, the simplest possible way of doing that you could do today, okay, would be on the internet, and it would be finding like a group of potential people on social media. So like on LinkedIn has groups, Facebook has groups, X has hashtags and things like this. Like you can group together, you can target specific groups of people. So it's as simple as probing the market, which what that means is that you sort of contact those people, and in one way or another, you basically say, hello, I'm offering this. Are you interested? Right? Like, that's the simplest form of it. Now, if you put that out and you get nothing, you get no responses, that tells you something. There's a problem in one of those areas, one of those three areas. Okay, the three areas are you targeting the right people? Are you saying the wrong thing to them? Okay, you're communicating the wrong thing. Like, how do you convince someone to buy something? You communicate something to them. Sometimes that'll take the form of text, like you say something to them. Sometimes it'll be the form of a picture. Here, this has just been released, right? Here's a picture of it. It could also be an in-person demonstration. That would be another way of communicating your message to them, right? Okay, so you have to figure out what to communicate, and then you have to figure out the channel over which to do it. Maybe those people exist, you're targeting the right people, but contacting them over social media is not the channel to go over. Maybe for those people, the way you convince them is you have to meet them in person and give them a demonstration. Like, for example, how do you sell a car? Do you put up an ad? Or do you open a dealership, you have a showroom, and you have the person test drive the car? Is that what convinces them to buy? Or is it like being communicated like, okay, this is the car, this is its gas mileage, this is its cost, this is its reliability, this is its mean time between failures, and different types of products favor different ways of communicating that message, right? So this is what you have to reverse engineer. Now, how do you get this knowledge? There are two basic ways, but it all involves going out and interacting with your potential customers. You have to understand What do these people care about? Do they want to test drive a car, or do they just want to see a picture? Is that sufficient? Right? So you have to get that information. And when you're in the early stages and you don't have that information, you have to get it. So I would do two things. I would get on the internet. I'd start probing the market. I'd start like putting out messages. Here, I have this. Is anyone interested? I have this. Is anyone interested? And I would try various permutations of that. Now, if you get a lot of bites and people say, yes, I want two. Where can I buy that? If you get a lot of bites, then what you've offered, you don't just offer any random thing. You offer something that you could deliver if the demand was there. Okay, so if you get enough bites, then you can start meeting this demand. Okay, and a great way to prove that the demand is real is you get them to pay for it up front. Because you're not looking for encouraging words, you're looking for actual commitment. That's the only real proof. There's a lot of people that'll say very nice things about what you're doing, but they won't actually buy a product when it comes down to it. So you can't go on that. You have to go on, are you willing to make a transaction? Okay? The other thing is you got to get out and meet these people in some way, shape, or form. You have to get out and physically meet these people. Unless you do that, you won't understand what you need to do. Okay? It's just that simple. So if you're in the early stages, these are the things I would recommend you think about and try to implement. Sairam Tej, if I'm saying that right, which I'm sure I'm not, and I apologize, says, I built a real estate marketplace app targeting Indian customers, and it has a scope to cover U.S. market as well. Registering an LLC in the USA is a good idea. Please share your thoughts around the benefits. Well, I don't know. I'm not in the USA, so I don't know the details of how to do that. I would recommend you talk to somebody in the USA. I'd recommend you contact. I mean, this is really not hard. You go to. There's, I'm sure, a hell of a lot of real estate conferences and trade shows and events going on right now that you have access to via LinkedIn. You can search for these things. You can contact the people in them. You can contact the organizers. You could show up physically at these. You go down there, you bring business cards, and you talk to lots of people. And you learn. You ask them questions. You don't talk all about yourself. You're not using this as like a platform to just promote what you're doing. You're going to go down there and you're going to get information. You're saying, if somebody wanted to do this, do you think that would work? If someone wanted to do this, do you think, is that something that you would be interested in? Or do you know if that would go over well? Or what's your response to that? Is there a future in this? And you talk to all the players, the developers, the builders, the retailers, the people that are selling tools, all that kind of stuff, everyone you can, economists, venture capitalists, like all the people that go there, investors, and you learn. And when you do it, you give out your business card, and that will point you in the right direction. Okay? You also obviously talk to the customers. Right? It doesn't matter if you register something as this or as that. Do people want it? You could do like 10 customers on your app without it being registered. Nobody cares. It's only when you're making millions and millions and millions, you have to get all your ducks in a row and do everything above board and stuff. If it's just a proof of concept, if you just want to sell someone to something else, you can do that, providing you're clear, honest and upfront about what's going on. And saying, this is brand new, this is still in the beta phase, and if it's successful, I'm going to release it properly here, but, or something like that. There are ways to do all that kind of stuff. There's no point in moving ahead with all this legal, bureaucracy if it's not going to make any money. So prove that it's going to make money, validate it first, and then if it does make sense, then you proceed with all this bureaucracy. You're welcome, Kaki, or Kaiki. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. You had a very intelligent question, so it wasn't really that hard. Anyway, if anyone has any other questions, please ask them now, or forever hold your peace. I am going to be signing off in a couple minutes, unless I get any really compelling questions to answer, because we've reached the end of the questions that people have sent in. This show is weekly, so I will be back next week with another edition. And later today, over on my other channel, I'm doing another collaborative live stream with another YouTuber in the hiring and employment space. So if you're interested in that, check out the Company's Expert 2. I have two other channels right here. So the Company Expert 2 for job seekers, more employment type stuff, how to pass job interviews, etc. And if you like this channel, you're wanting to learn business, subscribe to the Company's Expert 3. That's a new channel I just launched that talks about business. It talks about entrepreneurship, what we're talking about here. And it's also relevant for people who are wanting to climb the ladder, move from being a worker or an employee or even a professional to moving up into management. Okay, so if you have any interest in either of those, check out my other channels, and in particular the Company's Expert 3. Okay, Sairam Tesh says, can you please talk about the marketing strategies to create customer awareness? Well, I mean, it's not really much of a strategy. It's that you have to get out there. So the first thing you have to do is you have to figure out who might be interested in your offering. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to do. You must have some basic idea of who might be interested. And it could be more than one type of customer. It could be some people over here and also some people over here. You know, these two groups might be interested in the thing that you're doing. Okay, so after having thought of that, you now have to go out and get some hard evidence. Okay, so the easiest way to do this is like kind of what I described already, is get on social media, you know, try and take advantage of places where those types of people might congregate on the internet. So groups and things like this on social media is kind of the place to start. And, you know, just try and contact them through there and just put out feelers and try to learn who these people are. The other place you can do it, you know, which is better than doing this, is doing it in person. So if there are events, right, go to these events. If there could be an event, let's say you live in a city, okay, and in that city, there's an association for whatever the industry is that you're doing, and they have conferences and events and meetings. Well, join and go down and attend these and rub shoulders with the people, like the players in that industry in your city, and talk to them and learn how to conduct an informational interview and learn how to strike up a conversation with people in these, at these events, because they go down to the events generally to connect with other people. That's what they're doing there, and that's what you're doing there. So it's not like they will have an aversion to talking to you. Go down there and just ask and say, it depends who you're talking to. If you're talking to a competitor, you can ask them, have you found a lot of success, promoting your stuff here? Or, do you find that, you have to take it on the road and sell in person, or, like this kind of stuff, and get answers to these questions. You can also do research on competitors and see how they're marketing their product, right? So where they're promoting it, and this kind of thing, right? And then you could attempt to do something similar, just to probe the market to see if that gets you some responses, right? So if you're capable of offering something the same as your competitor or similar, one thing you could do is essentially copy what they're doing, what their marketing message is, or, not copied exactly, but just see what they're doing and offer something similar, do the same kind of thing, and then see what results you get, right? Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, okay? Like, for example, one of the reasons it might not work is if they've got a very established brand reputation, and that's really the thing that sells them. you can emulate, you can put up a similar website or whatever it is and have a similar message and a similar offer, but it won't be nearly as successful because you don't have the name recognition that they have. Alternatively, maybe the name doesn't matter at all. Maybe people don't care if they've heard of your company before. When you hire a plumber, do you care if you've worked with them previously or not? Probably not, right? So some businesses it works like that, some businesses it doesn't. So the only way to learn this for sure for the thing you're trying to do is to go out and get that information, get that data yourself by trying things and seeing what the response is. And you build up that knowledge base of your potential customers, and the more knowledge you have about them, the more you'll be able to sell to them. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And by the way, thanks for responding to my first question. You're absolutely welcome. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. I will be back with another episode next week, same time. Thank you to the 13 people that are here. You guys are awesome. I wish you nothing but the best. I wish you success in your career and in your entrepreneurial endeavors. And I hope you will come back and join me next week and check out The Company's Expert 3, my new channel. Go there and subscribe. And also check out this course, the $100 MBA. If you want to learn business, this is the thing with the best bang for the buck. This can potentially teach you everything that you would learn in a brick and mortar MBA. And I know this because I have a brick and mortar MBA and I created this course, and all the books in this particular course I have read myself. So I know what I'm recommending and I know what I'm teaching people, and you get me to be your guide through it. So check that out. There's a link in the description. And this will shave years off your journey to be successful in business. It will also help you avoid many costly mistakes. Thank you for watching. You guys are awesome. Thank you to Sai and Kaiki and Kirik. And thank you to Blake Berry, who says that was awesome. You're welcome. Okay, take care, you guys. I'll see you soon.